All right, well, welcome to the emerging role of water on energy efficient systems in building applications. At water often gets kind of looked at last in regards to the programs and incentives out there. It doesn't really get incentives because people are typically targeting energy efficiency for utility bills and direct carbon emissions reductions. Also, just energy, plays a role in many other aspects. It sort of dominates the conversation more often than not. But nonetheless, water is a very important factor. And when we can reduce our water usage, we can also directly reduce water consumption on site through reducing, especially hot water at the water heater, reducing pumped water in many ways, especially for those who are on groundwater and have to pump their water. And then also for every gallon of water we save that's not getting pulled from the plant, both pulled and then sent back to the plant for reprocessing, there's carbon and energy saved there at a societal level, and also reduction of toxic chemicals that are often introduced into our water systems. So water is very important, and so we're going to be talking about that continuously here, and also some advanced shower technologies on how ultimately water can be saved. Now, before we get into it, we want to mention support for the Green Home Institute comes from Build Equinox. Traditional energy recovery ventilators and heat recovery ventilators provide basic ventilation, but often lack protection against airborne threats like seasonal flu and wildfire smoke. Introducing the SERV, an advanced indoor air quality management system, it offers energy recovery ventilation along with enhanced protection and intelligent air management. It's continuously monitoring CO2 and VOC levels to only bring in as much fresh air when pollutants exceed healthy standard thresholds and targets. It features a high efficiency heat pump, recovering energy from exhausting air and preconditioning and dehumidifying incoming air. It operates in a recirculation mode, helping purify the air in a home when ventilation is not needed. Has optional UV light technology as well. Um, and also, they have the Serve 1000, which can be used for institutional school settings and larger building applications. So go to buildequinox.com to learn how the Serve can enhance your project, your clients' projects as well. All right, well, welcome everyone to the emerging role of water on energy efficiency systems in building applications. This session is brought to you by the Green Home Institute. The Green Home Institute is a nonprofit with a mission to empower people to make healthier and more sustainable choices in the renovation and construction of the places we live. Today, I will be your moderator. My name is Brett Little, and I am the education manager here. Like all of our courses, this course is approved for multiple continuing education units, including two of the pillars of green in our Certified Green Home Professional designation, water and energy. AIA Health, Welfare, and Safety may make it applicable to your state-based design or contractor license. Check out that 5-digit code as long as you're appropriately logged in and stay for the CEU hour to earn your Passive House certificate. So with that, I'm very excited to hand it off to our speaker here, Alicia McFetridge, and welcome her. So Alicia, welcome, and please do take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Brett, Green Homes Institute, for having me here today. And thank you to everybody. I'm seeing quite an active chat. It's great to see where folks are from. I think it's an important time for us. I'm loving seeing both Americans and Canadians on the call. It's even more important with what we have going on to really focus on some of these technologies, implementation and deployment. So I love seeing that. I love seeing your backgrounds, and very much looking forward to having this conversation today. And I will say that although we are doing questions at the very end, I absolutely welcome, and we'll see how many questions we can get through today. Thanks, Chris. Um, and we'll see how we can make sure that you get out what you're looking to get out of this presentation. I will also say that today we are going to have a little bit of a quiz at the very end. And yes, there are prizes. So definitely be, listening to some of the statistics, some of the information, because we're hoping that today is an informative conversation where we're talking a little bit about that forgotten little brother in the room, and that is water. I think when we think a little bit about where we're at in terms of some of the applications for the home, we often focus on energy. But one of the areas that, we're looking to talk about is not only energy, but is water. And I think water is about 10 years behind where energy is. So today you can go out and you can, off the shelf purchase your energy package. You can make sure that the homes that you're working on are solar panel ready. You can find heat pumps for applications readily available. But when it comes to water, historically, the applications, to be very frank, have been quite bulky. They've been cost prohibitive. They've been expensive. They've been difficult to install, or they're not necessarily the full package that you require. And so today, the focus is to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we experience in finding and deploying these technologies and talking about a space that I'm incredibly passionate about, I'm really excited about, and that is point of use technology and specifically recirculating showers. A little bit about my background. Yes, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Rainstick Shower. This is a recirculating shower technology. It is an appliance. And why am I so passionate about this space? Well, one, I'm from Canada's only desert region. That's the Okanagan Valley. But two, my previous background was actually in climate change. So before I got into faucets, fixtures, appliances, I spent a good amount of time living abroad, working towards climate related. That's actually where my educational history is in. I have a master's of climate change. And I really am knew that we need to do more in terms of our residential spaces for water and energy. And what's our why here? And I think just to preface, it's because we have a lot of water, but we don't have water, even Canada, where we want it, at the level we want it, at the quality that we want it, at the quantity that we want it. And so water is becoming more and more challenging to access. If we look at the water that we have globally, 97% of our world's water is within oceans. And so is it possible to treat that water for residential use or industrial use? Absolutely. But the challenge that we experience is that it's one, often very energy intensive. It's often very expensive. And often there's a pollution or that pollutant, which is that brine, as a result of the desalination. And so the best water that we can use is that water that is easily accessible. I mentioned 97% of our water is in oceans. So 3% is considered fresh water. And 2% of that 3% is not accessible. So what do I mean by that? I mean that it's typically trapped, it's frozen. And in our best efforts to keep the climate the same that it is, we want to keep that water frozen. And in the case of Canada, 1/5 of the world's water is located here, but the majority of that is actually not accessible for us. And that's why, I'm living in one of the desert regions. So less than 1% of the world is accessible. That's found in lakes, reservoirs, rivers, and that's the water that we've historically pulled, but is becoming more and more challenging to access. Less than 5% of countries have more water than they did 20 years ago. And despite all of this, we use a lot of it within our residential homes. So right now, we use typically 82 gallons per person per day. In liters, that is closer to over 300 liters. And so it's a lot of water that we're using that's touching our skin for a brief second before it's going right down the drain. And the problem with that is that it's incredibly energy intensive to continue treating that. There's also leakage that happens. When we look at the home, 50% of our water use happens in the bathroom. And so that is the area of lowest hanging fruit. We know that there is a water crisis in different countries at all times, depending on the time of year. Folks are challenged with how they are accessing water. Some very specific US data. So the Colorado River Basin, we've been talking about this for the last couple of years. Yes, sometimes of the year we're seeing it increase depending on the snowpack. Other times we're worried about that supply. I was just in Las Vegas last week for the largest, North America's largest kitchen and bath show, KBIS, and the International Build Show. I don't know if anyone was here as well, but anyone was there as well from this chat. But we're seeing that, for example, Las Vegas relies heavily on the Colorado River Basin. They do a fantastic job recycling that water and actually diverting it into Lake Mead. But the problem is Lake Mead is now going down quite quickly. So that's an example. We're seeing construction projects are being restricted and denied. If anyone here is from the city of Phoenix, one of the the newer permitting requirements is to have a 100-year water plan. And that is mandatory if you are looking to have your permit be compliant. We're seeing increasing regulations and costs for builders and low flow regulation that is tightening. So the challenge, and we'll talk a little bit about low flow in itself, it poses a lot of challenges for users who are experiencing those regulations. And so, all of this to say, there's quite a few challenges when it comes to water. There's a lot of action that needs to happen, but all to be said, we don't have good solutions at scale that aren't necessarily cost prohibitive. In the case of gray water systems, we're seeing a really large payback period, and that's after subsidies are received. We're seeing that there aren't a lot of energy savings. They're expensive. They make sense for new build applications, but they're very challenging in the retrofit market. So it poses the question when you're looking to apply different water technologies that will make a significant impact. What is the best water technology that can be deployed without that cost? We're seeing, on the other hand, low flow faucets. For user experience, there's that subjective experience. And so folks are forced to compromise in the name of low flow. In terms of performance, folks are worried about being unwashed. This is some of the data that is easily inaccessible on low to find. But the challenge is also that despite low flow faucets, there's still so-so water savings. And so we can do much better in terms of looking at some of our water use. And that's really where our focus is. We say the best water that you save is the water that you don't use in the first place. And some of my research in climate change was also looking at how do we create technologies that don't force that significant compromise for users. And, that's really why we started to look heavily into the space of recirculating showers. This is this new segment. If you're not familiar with recirculating showers, there are some technologies that are available in Europe. Rainstick, which is the company that I run, is the North American version of a recirculating shower. So I'll be talking a little bit more about the segment more generally today. But this technology, it saves the same amount as a whole home gray water system, but in a single appliance. And so now we're not bound to just new construction projects where we really want to deploy that strong energy and water savings. But now we have the opportunity to put this kind of technology into both new construction as well as the bathroom renovation projects. So the technology saves 80% water, provides a 3 gallon per minute from the shower head while only using half a gallon from the house supply. It's typically what we're seeing within the segment. It saves a swimming pool's worth of water, and it has the opportunity, it saves over 2,000 kilowatt hours of energy per appliance that's installed. So it's pretty significant. We're not forgetting about that heated water because we're able to recirculate it, and we are just boosting the temperature for a couple degrees, and that's how we're able to obtain that deep water savings or energy savings as well. So, this technology has the opportunity to significantly impact the market. And, in short, I'm going to talk a little bit about how this technology typically works. I'm also going to touch on a little bit about some of the obstacles to deployment, and some of the, relevant projects. So the benefits, as mentioned, is performance and comfort. So it provides a very strong flow rate while only using a small thread of water. So in short, this technology recirculates and cleans the water in real time to avoid waste. It does not store any water in between sessions. So think of it kind of like a bathtub, but standing up, or a spa appliance. The installation is, so it's renovation friendly for existing infrastructure. And the key point I want to underline is the investment versus the cost of ownership. So it's cutting costs by 80%. So it's saving money while conserving water and energy. In places like California, this technology saves up to $1,200 on an annual recurring basis. And that's because of the combined water and energy savings. Climate and drought resilient, and extension of limited water supply. So this type of technology is being deployed in areas of pain, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. So with all recirculating showers, there is cleaning mechanisms in place. So depending on the recirculating shower, you'll have to understand a little bit more about how that cleaning is happening. But I would say that hygiene is a large part of this technology. There have been a couple of folks that just drastically, they just recirculate that water for camping applications or for RV applications. I would look into that, but for folks that are interested in this, I'm happy to share some names of some of the providers within Europe, within North America, that are actively working towards hygiene and cleanliness with their recirculating shower offerings. But in short, typically there is a rough filter or an in-depth filter that deals with hair, dirt, sand before it can enter the appliance. There's almost always a level of UV LED to deal with any bacteria or viruses in the shower. In Rainstick's case, we continually also refresh the water, and that's also how we maintain temperature. In European applications, there may be a heater on board the technology that maintains the temperature. And then there's typically a level of auto cleaning between shower sessions or on a basis that's preset by the user. So this is very short, a little bit about that hygiene and cleaning aspect of the shower. But I would say that this is a newer segment that requires some education. In terms of maintenance for the technology, there are a few key considerations. One, does the recirculating shower require a filter change? And how does that impact the project at scale? So how often are filters changed? What kind of filters are being used in the technology? Is that an environmental waste stream at scale? Are we creating another environmental waste stream? So definitely looking into what technologies offer and how they are cleaning and what that maintenance requirement is very important. Are they using a cleaning product instead? Um, are there dead end, I mentioned dead end filtration. Are there also small filters at the base of the system? Are they reusable? Can we avoid the environmental waste stream? And this effort has been something that we are incredibly passionate about, is how do we make sure that maintenance is minimal? There's only 1 to 2 touch points a month. And number 2 is how do we make sure that we don't develop a product with environmental waste streams at scale? And so, typically maintenance for recirculating showers will be anywhere between 1 touch point every couple of days to 1 to 2 touch points per month. Okay. So this is now an appliance. Rather than your single faucet, it is an appliance. And so it does have parts in order to pump that water through to make sure that it's constantly hygienic for the user. So what are some of the obstacles and barriers of adoption when we consider recirculating shower technology? Number 1, this is a brand new technology. In our case, we have been around for the past 5 years. We consider ourselves early commercial. We are active in projects, but there is a lot of education that's required. So it's an appliance rather than a faucet. I can tell you at Rainstick, one thing that we've done that has been quite successful is actually supporting some of the consultants that are implementing some of this technology. And so we will actually join them for the conversations that they're having if they don't feel 100% certain that they're going to be able to talk about the technology, about how they heard it. So certainly understanding a little bit about how it works. And and I think on that is hygiene and cleanliness. We often say at Rainstick, there's an ick factor that we need to educate folks on that hygiene and cleanliness. How does the technology work? It's a new technology. And so if this recirculating shower segment is going to reach scale, what does that look like, and how are folks being educated on the technology and how it's constantly cleaning and maintaining hygiene? So some of the tests that have been deployed is understanding, this technology, so water is never stored in between sessions. In fact, this is not gray water. Recirculating showers don't store any water. You're not using the same water that, so-and-so just used. The water completely drains, the system cleans itself, and then sets up for the next user. So one of the areas of hygiene and cleanliness is saying, okay, folks have, they go into cold plunges, as part of wellness measures. People go into baths. People are familiar with spa-like products. What is the recirculating shower segment? Is it any different? No. Then how are we educating folks also about that, ensuring that there's zero transfer in between users? So, and often it's more hygienic than a shower today through the hygiene and cleanliness, but making sure that these companies, as well as the consultants and the folks that are selling on recirculating shower, have a good grasp and they understand that a little bit. And then number 3 is that initial price point. So although recirculating showers save a significant amount of water and energy, there is still that upfront investment. I hate using the word green premium, but the reality is until we get this technology to scale, you're going to pay more than you would a traditional shower. Now, if you go to Home Depot, you can purchase the shower for, less than $500. If you go into showrooms, you can get some designer faucets and fixtures, and you can pay $7,000 plus. So there's a wide variation. But right now, this technology is typically between $5,000 and $7,000. Now, unlike regular faucets, there isn't that run of constant water and constant energy. You're actually saving up to $1,200 per year on an annual recurring basis. So when you compare that directly against some of the energy technologies that we use and the water technologies that we use, it's far stronger than something like solar panels in a lot of ways, which is, typically has a 7 year plus payback period, and that's considered very good. When we look at whole home gray water systems that have, a 12 to 15 to 20 year payback period, recirculating showers have a fantastic payback period. And I think as this technology begins to get more and more into market, we have more volume, then that initial price shock, because recirculating showers are between 5,000 and 7,000 typically, will start to come down. And that is our hope for the industry and the segment as a whole, is that we can bring these technologies more in line with your status quo. So installation considerations, typically they're meant for tile, but they're also now we're seeing almost all of the options available have a shower pan integration. So there's typically something at the bottom of the appliance. It might look like a linear drain. And you can typically purchase a shower pan that has that reservoir. It's about 3 inches in depth already in the shower pan. So it makes it for a quite seamless installation. I think the shortest install time that we've had it in 2 days. So there's no double plumbing. There's no additional upstairs, downstairs consideration. You're really solely focused on the shower stall. So the new aspect of recirculating showers is this electrical component. All recirculating showers have an electrical requirement, although that voltage is typically quite small. In the case of ours, we actually have a 12-volt system. It's 145 watts at peak, so less than a hairdryer. And the reason we're able to save energy despite having a 12-volt system is that abated energy. So the fact that we are not having to heat up every drop of water, we're only having to maintain temperature incrementally. And that's how that energy savings takes place. In terms of the actual mounting of the appliances differs. In our case, there's 4 top-of-volts. So what projects make sense for recirculating showers? And I think I would love to say every single one, but I'm happy to share a little bit about where we've seen the most success initially, and our goal, which is a shared goal with recirculating shower manufacturers for the future. So number one, similar to the innovation curve, we're seeing number one was the innovators. So those that go to the Consumer Electronics Show every year, they're looking for the newest thing, and they're very open to trying something new. Number two is the early adopters. And so in the early adopter space, we're actually seeing a lot of it is the modular builders, those that are taking traditional construction and doing it in a factory. They're doing it much quicker. They're innovating within the construction industry. They may also be innovating in where and how they are installing their homes. It might be in areas that you don't traditionally see construction projects. It might be off-grid, where there's that pain point. And so recirculating showers have been very much focused on areas where there's the innovators and people that are essentially willing to try this technology. And then the other part is we're seeing a lot of movement in the industry in areas where there's deep pain. And so, folks that have really high water and energy prices, and they just can't afford it over the long term of the asset. We're seeing folks that are off grid and they have to truck in water, which, very quickly that asset will pay back in only a couple of years. And we're now seeing a lot of interest from the hospitality sector. So again, folks that may be in areas where either water and energy is really expensive. Number two, there's a large environmental stewardship part of that's part of that, the ethos of either the group, the construction group, the hospitality group. They want to deploy more energy efficient and water efficient technology. And number three, they just don't have water. And so they're trying to understand how they can deploy. I'm going to give you an example. We're working with some projects internationally beyond North America. They'll be on islands and they currently are trucking in their water. Desalination, as mentioned, is incredibly energy intensive, it's expensive, and so it's a hospitality group who are relying on rainwater, but rainwater is not reliable for 9 months of the year. And so they're looking to significantly and drastically reduce their energy and water usage from an operational perspective. So, I mention this because I think with all new technology, it's all about finding the right projects. I can say that, for traditional construction folks, the barriers, as mentioned with this technology, is number one, it's brand new, so if people aren't familiar with it. And number two, it typically costs more than your $300 to $500 fixture that you're going to purchase from a place like Home Depot. And so how do we drive this value of water and energy to the folks that care and they see the need? And that's really where I think recirculating showers are going to take off. And then similar to the innovation curve, if you're familiar with that, it's the innovators, the early adopters, that we're going to then be able to reach those consumers who are not necessarily the early adopters. And I think that that's really our mission is how do we develop this technology for the segment that allows folks to thrive using significantly less? Recirculating showers, point of use technologies are a way where the best water that we save is the water that we're not using in the first place. And then additional water, reuse it. Absolutely. Find ways to clean and to reuse that water. So in terms of regulatory and compliance, this is specifically in North America. I would say, and I'm going to skip to the second part before I go into some of the other areas. So number one, I would say the confusion sometimes when folks are learning about the technology is trying to understand where this fits into. How does this fit into our current compliance and regulatory pathway? It's not gray water because gray water stores water, and recirculating showers do not store any water in between users. So it's now been likened to a spa product. So kind of like a whirlpool standing up, okay? So with that, with the existing certifications that we have today, it's been designed and manufactured to comply to all. But the challenge is, once someone installs this, there is again that education requirement for recirculating showers. And so some of the efforts that we're seeing the industry players engage in is making sure that folks know what it is. It might be meeting with cities. It might be meeting with the building inspectors and communicating the why. I'll mention, as part of our work, we're part of Resilient New Orleans. We currently are part of the City of San Francisco's program that they've partnered with the World Economic Forum, and they've selected 13 innovative companies that they want to use for future deployments. So really, there definitely is that education. I will say there is a pathway, and I believe over the next 24 months, we'll see a lot more of these systems in market with a recirculating shower specific universal plumbing code. And I think that's really going to help also with that education rather than relying on the existing certifications that we have right now, and the only real ones that we can kind of say, okay, what is this? But I will mention on that is, if you are interested in recirculating shower technology, definitely work with the company because you know that's what they do. And so if you're having any issues with the installation, I know one of the things that we do is we actually join, and so we're there with your building inspector if you want us there, and that's just to be able to educate them so there's no issues with the installation. Okay. So this is a growing segment, and it's not one that is traditional, right? And so there's been a lot of really cool industry recognition for this technology and others. We're incredibly proud that consumers are really looking to install this technology. They're looking to deploy it. They're looking to find ways to put it into projects. I think the positive part of this is that we're seeing this segment growing and it's not slowing because of all of the challenges, but because of this opportunity where we deal with water right at the source rather than central infrastructure. I think in the future, what I would love to see more of is off the shelf, I say, water technologies that can be deployed that lead to drastic water and energy savings. I think we're seeing that there's a few areas of the home where there's that large potential, and that's the bathroom. I can tell you, in addition to the shower, I'm very passionate about the toilet, because I think that there's incredible opportunity there, and we've looked into a lot of it. But I think that I have hope for the future of water within the residential home and growing into commercial applications. So now, I've spoken a little bit about this segment. We've talked about point of use. We've talked specifically about recirculating showers. And now I would absolutely love to ask a few questions. And yes, we mentioned there's going to be some prizes. And so let's see how you did. All right. And Brett, do you want me to lead the quiz questions? Is that okay? Or do you want to say anything before we get started?
Yes, first, yeah, please lead the quiz questions. I want to let everyone know to please put your questions in the Q&A. They might get mixed up somewhere in the chat and we won't see them. So put them formally in the Q&A, as many as you have been. And just a reminder, unfortunately, for those of you watching this on the recording in the future, please don't contact Alicia for your prize. There won't be a way to win. You had to be here live today. So I just wanted to remind that to everybody. So go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So the way that it's going to work, I'm going to ask a question, get ready, have your chat open, because the first person that successfully puts in the answer is going to win the prize. And just so you all know what the prize is, it's going to be a $5 e-card. If there's a coffee shop near you that has fantastic coffee that you want to support local and they have gift cards, then we'll make sure that we get you that. So we'll follow up after. And there's 5 questions, so there's 5 opportunities to win. Okay. So number 1, at the very beginning of the presentation, I mentioned a percentage of water that is accessible. What percentage of water? Oh, number 2, we have a couple more. I mentioned when talking about the solution, the water savings. How much water do recirculating showers save approximately? Right.
So,
Next.
and if you want to mention the answer too, just so for
Oh
everyone
yes,
listening. Yep.
it's 80%. So many of you put in the correct answer. First one, of course, was 1%. And number 3, I mentioned recirculating showers can save up to X in California. The question is, how much money can recirculating showers save on an annual recurring basis? Dollars. That is correct. Recirculating showers can save up to $1,200 on an annual recurring basis. Okay, here's one that's a little bit more specific. So if recirculating showers can use 140 watts at peak, how are they able to save 80% energy?
What was that
Tatiana?
response again?
Marginal heating. So the fact that we don't have to heat up every drop of water to that 38 degrees for your temperature during your shower, we just have to marginally reheat. We just have to bring that water so we remain maintaining temperature within the system. Do recirculating showers store water in between showers? Yes or no? Ooh, we got lots of answers here. This is good. Joel. The end of my quiz questions. I'm going to put in my email here as well. So for any folks that were successful, that's my email. Reach out to me and let me know. I'll follow up with maybe a few options. If you tell me your city, we can make sure that you get a gift card. So lastly, I would love to pass it over to Brett. That is the end of my formal presentation. I had my presentation up, so I wasn't able to see some of the questions and thoughts that were coming in, but I'm hoping, Brett, that we can go through some of the questions that the group has today.
Before we get to those questions, though, again, a reminder to everybody that yes, this session is being recorded and you can catch it on our YouTube channel in the next week or so. If you want to go there now, click subscribe and click the bell for notifications. You'll receive an instant update the second that we put the session out there. And then for those of you watching this in the future, not right now, but on demand, take your quiz with an 80% passing rate to receive your certificate. For those of you who were here today, check your spam at certs@gutenbergcerts.com to receive your certificate that will be sent to you, hopefully by the end of the day today. Take that survey that pops up as well. And as long as you've been here for the entire CEU approved hour, you'll be all set. And again, before we jump into all those questions coming in here, a huge thanks to our board of directors, our volunteers, our executive director, Jose Reyna, our over 400 members. We're trying to get to 500 by the end of the year, so help us get there. And all of our sponsors who make products to help meet and beat sustainability, green building standards, more sustainable housing, and energy efficiency reduction. Thanks to them. So yeah, some of the questions here are maybe a clarification questions, and the way I'm going to answer some of these questions all is, I think a lot of the questions you all started out with may have gotten answered. So I'm going to start at the bottom and go to the top, and that way, if there's anything we missed, just put it back in and let me know. But I think getting to that third question you asked, the $1,200 savings, I'm assuming there's a lot of assumptions there. So one question came up, and I'm going to add to it a little bit. Like, do these assumptions, what kind of water heating system do they factor in? What is it, gas? Is it electric? If it's electric, is it heat pump? Is it, is it electric resistance? And then, of course, the question being, what kind of electric rates do they factor in, and time of use and water rates? And so how is all that, how are all those assumptions being made? And if you can kind of speak to that real quick.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I'm happy to also follow up with our energy and water savings tracker.
Mhm.
So this allows you, depending on where you are, to let us know what typically the technology that is utilized, how much you would potentially save by implementing and deploying a recirculating shower.
Mm,
And so I believe for that specific example,
hmm.
um, I'm going to follow up Brett, and get back to you. But what I can say is based on a family of four. I believe it's based on um, um, 12-minute showers. Okay. That family of four, two 12-minute showers per day. And in terms of the heater, uh, I believe it's 85% efficient. I'll ask my team and I'll get back to you with that number. But we have a full-on tracker, so for depending on where you are, we can actually plug in that information and provide it back to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then some other questions came up, just kind of reiterating the code. And I know, of course, there's the plumbing code we have to deal with, but a lot of times when we're talking about water, we also have to deal with, at least in the US, the local county health department. And they
Yeah.
typically get themselves involved and typically, slow processes and projects down when they're concerned about the health aspect. So, can you just speak a little bit more about what you're seeing, how this is getting built into the codes, both from the health and the plumbing standpoint?
Yeah, but it's again, very good question. So in terms of the plumbing regulation, we are, and I'm speaking specifically to our company at Rainstick here with this response. But with plumbing and electrical certification, it's just a matter of getting those certifications. We always say there's a little bit of a three-legged stool, and that's the plumbing education, and that's fully deployable. Number two is the electrical, so getting folks comfortable
Mm,
with the fact
mm,
that there is electricity within the bathroom, kind of
mm,
like heated floors, or bathroom heated floors. We're seeing um, spa-like experiences, but making sure that folks feel comfortable with that aspect, so getting the appropriate certifications. And then number three, as you mentioned, is this hygiene and cleanliness. A lot of it is really just providing either data, so these folks understand a little bit more about what it is. I think it's also the way that we speak about recirculating showers. So, we've been comfortable showering, or sorry, bathing in bathtubs for the last hundreds of years.
mm,
We are comfortable with spa-like products, which have pumps, kind of like whirlpool appliances with cold plunges. But how does that work from recirculating showers? And so, in terms of recirculating shower technology, it's more hygienic than your bath or your whirlpool because there's constant cleaning mechanisms that are happening.
mm,
And number two is having third-party reports and testing and having case studies of cities where health inspectors have looked at this technology and have quote unquote okayed this technology.
mm,
I think the last part is recirculating showers have a straightforward pathway right now in the market where there will be a universal plumbing code for recirculating showers over the next 24 months.
mm,
So that's specifically within Canada and the USA. We are currently working with the EPA on this specific code. And so I think as that progresses and
mm,
as that's available, then that's also going to create a lot more certainty in
mm.
local areas where we might otherwise have some pushback.
Yeah. And speaking of code, of course, we here at GHI talk a lot about the residential green building certification programs and building above code. One of the first questions that came in is, where does water interplay with, the green building programs? And so a lot of them lead for homes, our Green Star program, the National Green Building Enterprise Green, and then of course there's the water modeling programs like EPA WaterSense, our good friends over at WERS, HERS H2O. So the question is, I haven't seen any opportunities for integration into the residential green building standards of recirculating showers. Um, but I'm curious if you have, and also if you've been approached by any of the water modeling, just like energy modeling, we can now water model or model water. Of course, we can forecast And, we have a whole, like, you put in all the things, flow rates, because, what I'm seeing in these recirculating at 3 gallons per minute, you're going to get dinged in all of the green programs. It's all going to look bad unless there's some kind of way to educate and show them how this works. So have you been approached or worked on any green programs or any of the water rating systems?
Yeah. And so 3 gallons per minute. And I'll mention, so specifically to our technology, despite the fact that we're using 3 gallons per minute at the shower head, we're only using half a gallon from the house supply per minute. So it's
Mm,
drastically less. And it's all about how do we communicate that message? How are we able to test that? So we
mm,
build a lot more trust. I would say, you know, here's an example. When we're looking at
mm,
water sense. The way that we're testing for water sense right now is we're, putting the bag and we're turning on the tap for a minute and we're seeing the how much water comes out, right? So
mm,
that's a problem because we're not necessarily utilizing that amount. That's what it shows, that it's too much water. And so
mm,
we've had to work behind the scenes with some of these groups. I will say that if water sense is a
mm,
problem, we've been able to work with groups. We do have a workaround. We are now testing, and over the next couple of months, we anticipate to have that.
mm,
The other part is lead. There is actually space for recirculating showers with lead right now.
mm,
And so that's just a matter of if it is lead, if you're looking to get points for that lead
mm,
certification, we work with you to make sure that you do get those lead points for implementing a recirculating shower.
mm,
But I think, we're going to see this space constantly evolve as more folks understand the benefit and understand how to test for recirculating showers.
sure.
I will say, one of the prominent groups, I won't say which one, the reason why they see the benefit, the group has
Mm,
installed a recirculating shower in the group leader's home. So they fully understand the benefit. But the
mm,
reason why they haven't looked at recirculating showers and given the stamp is simply because they don't have the
mm,
funding to be able to do it, right?
sure.
So every time you review and look at another technology, there's costs associated. And
Yeah.
so we're
Yeah.
trying to do it. We're looking at the areas where it's the lowest hanging fruit and we're working closely. But I would
Yeah.
say in general, utilizing this technology, we can typically work closely with you to find a resolution with
Mm,
those that need that education.
yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are asking the same question here. What happens in the event of a power or technological failure? Is there a bypass?
Yeah. So if there's a technological failure, yes. And I unfortunately can't speak to the other recirculating showers, but in our
Right.
case, if anything happens or if someone hasn't, there is that in situ filter that you pull out, you can wipe off, and then you put back in 1 to 2 times per month. If for some reason someone doesn't want to clean the system,
Mm,
if something happens over 10 years, the pump doesn't work anymore, it just goes back to a regular
mm,
low flow shower of
mm,
1.8 gallons per minute until that problem has been fixed. And then the
mm,
shower also blinks a number of times, so you actually know what the fault is.
yeah.
So it's like one for this, two for that, and believe there's about 5 indicators.
Yeah.
If the power goes out, although people don't typically shower when the power is out, but I will mention that you cannot use rain stick if you don't have power. So it does require that 12 volt in order to keep the system going. Yeah.
Now what about trained installation contractors, workforce development? What is going to be needed? Is there a training certificate for the plumbers and electricians to install this? Is there, someone coming on site to do quality assurance to make sure it's all commissioning to properly installed and set up? Is there a certificate they get or a list of those who are trained to do this? What's the thought there?
Yeah. So in short, I think something that we always wanted to do is create a technology that can be installed by any certified bathroom pro. And that's the case now.
Hmm.
Anybody that is familiar with the bathroom is very straightforward in terms of its installation. We always, because it's a new technology, we try to get on the phone with the installer and make sure that they feel comfortable if they have any questions.
Hmm.
But I think the big thing is we don't currently have an installer program, so to say, or so to speak. But I will say that those that have installed rain stick, typically we try
Mm-hmm.
to bring on to another project once we know that they feel comfortable as well with the new technology. I will say that this is now my inside voice, but sometimes installers, plumbers, they don't like trying new technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us is making it as seamless and as straightforward as possible through video content, installation manuals, making sure that we can hop on the phone and see if they have any questions at all so that the installation is as seamless as possible. And then for us, it's a little bit of finding the folks that do a great job and calling them back over and over again. So we now have
Mm-hmm.
projects, I mean, we can name it. We have projects in Oregon, California, Pennsylvania, New York, and then, all across Canada. And these are really the folks that have taken a new technology, installed it, saw success, and now are doing more projects.
Mm-hmm. And then a lot of questions for those who, want to have this integrated in with a bathtub. Is that possible?
In the future, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, great. Well, we are now at our time. So where can people go to contact you or learn more? I think you might have had a sort of last slide there you could share with some information if you wanted to real quick. But yeah, where can people go to contact you or learn more?
So my email, I'm just going to actually put it right into the chat here,
Okay.
if I can. Um, And then if any folks are interested in connecting, feel free absolutely to reach out. Brett, are folks able to reach out to you if for some reason they uh,
Sure, absolutely.
use
Yeah. They are and they will and they do. So yeah.
So again, my email is right here. My name is Alicia. And if you have any additional questions, I did mention I have that tracker. So if you do want to understand a little bit about
Mm,
water and energy savings, and the predominant, if it is heat pumps, if it is your gas boiler, happy to put some of that information in and provide a better understanding of how much water and energy is being saved.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Alicia. I really appreciate your time and coming on and educating us and talking through this. And thank you all for joining us. We are off next week for our session. So we'll catch you again in 2 weeks, everyone. So take care. Be well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Take care.
Be sure to check out all of our courses available online that you can watch anytime and anywhere to pick up your CEUs. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube to get weekly updates and stay up to date on green building science courses, webinars, and home tours. Thanks again.